There we go.
And we just see the continue here screen, Marty.
I think you're only sharing the browser window.
Yeah.
Oh no, how does,
You just stop the share and then
Switch to the other one.
share your PowerPoint and then
okay, thank you for all the tech support help here.
PowerPoint presentations are one of the worst annoying things to share because you've got to run them and also share the screen.
Thank you.
We'll edit this out of the final recording.
Or not.
Yeah.
Okay, does that work for everyone? Okay, I'm getting some head nods.
Yep.
So we're just gonna kick off. And Brian, if you could keep watching the waiting room while I get us through the first couple of slides here.
Yep.
So welcome. This is our 6th Project Advisory Committee meeting. It actually technically is our 7th if you include our kickoff meeting, which I do. And just acknowledging that a year ago, we were experiencing some intense heat in our Project Advisory Committee meeting. So I'm definitely really enjoying the sunny but cooler weather this evening. So just wanted to reflect on that. Okay, so today we're gonna just do some check-ins. It's always lovely to see all of you. If we do have public comment, we'll make time for that. We're gonna go over the online open house and survey kind of results to date, kind of what we're seeing, and just give just an engagement update of what we've been doing in this public involvement phase of the project. We're gonna give allow for some time to connect with Latino Network and hear about the engagement that's happening there. And then really kind of one of the last 20 minutes, we just want to have some time for some kind of project midpoint reflections and just committee sharing, and the team would like to listen, and we have some questions that we'll go over, and if we have enough folks, we'd like to break it up into some small group breakout rooms for that, and then wrap up in next steps. And we're gonna, introduce the question. I'm gonna hand it off to Brian to kind of facilitate this. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can see all of your faces when we do this. But again, we would love, for you to share your name. And then the question for this meeting is if you could share your favorite Portland, and specifically Portland summer activity. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Great. Well, I can go first, I guess. I think y'all know me, but I'm Brian Poole with PBOT, transportation planner. And it might be a power of suggestion, but one of my favorite summer activities is actually swimming right there in that picture. We live in Sellwood, so we go down to Oaks Bottom, Oaks Park there a lot and swim. And I also enjoy the Pedalpalooza rides. That it's been awesome that it's expanded all summer. So there's been a lot of fun rides already this summer. So I'm just gonna go down the list as I see it. So Anna, you wanna go first or next?
Sure. So Anna Weichsel, I'm with the Woodstock Neighborhood Association, and I live on the edge of Woodstock and Brentwood Darlington. And my summer activity in Portland, I usually work a lot because it's a quiet time for me to do my personal private work. But what I really enjoy is getting up like really super early when it's just getting this tiny little light and go down to Johnson Creek and take a walk or a little run. That I enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thanks. Nancy, can you go next?
Nancy Chapin, president of the 82nd Avenue Business Association and Brentwood Darlington Neighbor and Woodstock Neighborhood or Business Association board member, and all around care about this neighborhood. And I guess basically the Hawthorne Street Fair sort of enfolds me in the summer. And so putting it together and also being there and doing it and having it over is my favorite summer activity.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's a great event as well. Aaron, can you go next?
Everyone, Aaron, he, him, live in the almost southeast corner of Brentwood, Darlington, just 78th and Flavel. And I'd go with the Sunday morning visits to the Lentz Farmers Market, temporarily a little bit away from where it normally is, but small but mighty farmers market. Nearly always bump into my neighbors, and just a bike ride away. And hand it off to Hector, only because I don't think I've ever met Hector.
Hello, my name is Hector Rodriguez. My pronouns are he, him. I was part of the project from the other side, and now I'm with BPS. I'm the new East Portland liaison planner, and some of the things that I will enjoy in Portland during summer is that I can find sour beer everywhere. Also, Pride is super fun in here, and the Water Blue Festival in the waterfront. So, just a few things.
Awesome. Thanks, Hector. Yeah, Hector was the manager for ODOT of this grant before he came and worked for the city. So worn both hats, and we're super excited to have him join this team. Thanks, Hector. Let's see. Ben, you want to go next?
Sure. Ben Waterhouse, Mount Scott Leader resident. I like to spend as much time as I can on my bicycle in summer when I can do so without getting wet. On Sunday, I attempted to do so at a Pedalpalooza ride that was an alley cat race through Brentwood Darlington. That was fantastic until the biblical rains started. But it was great to spend some time with a bunch of people exploring those streets. An alley cat race, for those who have not done one, is basically a scavenger hunt.
That sounds fun, even if we all had summer events so far in the rain. But hopefully for going forward there'll be less precipitation. Thanks, Ben. Let's see. Cassie, you want to go next?
Sure. Cassie Ballou. I work with Marty and Hector at BPS, and my favorite summer activity right now, we have a 3-year-old and we go to the park a lot on the weekends. So we like to just hang out there on a blanket, bring food and snacks. And that's kind of our summer, like, lazy day activity. A lot of fun. Do I popcorn it, Brian, or hand it back to you?
You can, it doesn't matter, but how about Kareem? You want to go next? You're next on the list.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kareem Mcqueen. I'm part of the project team on the PBOT side and supporting public involvement for the project. And I've missed a couple of meetings partly because I was doing some engagement with our guest Marcella, who will be here today. So it's good to see all your faces again after a little while. And my favorite summer activity, I would echo what Cassie said so far. I have a little one too, and I'm just trying to take it slow. So just like sitting in the backyard or front yard with under a blanket and just letting her play with grass. That's kind of been like my low-key favorite thing to do. Just be outside, don't have to make it like an epic adventure, but just do something nice close by.
Nice.
And I'll pass it to Kevin, who's also on the project team.
What? Hi. Hi, sorry I'm late. My name's Kevin Bond.
Oh, sorry, Kevin, for calling you.
I'm a city planner with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and a member of the project team. Is there an icebreaker question?
It was favorite Portland summer activity.
Favorite. Well, I haven't done this too much yet this year, but I really like going on a long bike ride every once in a while. So I've been trying to do long rides and use it as an excuse to fill out a page of my McMinimans passport sometimes. So that's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a good goal. Nice, thanks, Kevin. Let's see here. Going back, Eleanor, can you go next?
Hi, my name's Eleanor, she, her. I'm a resident of Mount Scott Arleta. So I also have a little one who's 4, and I'm really enjoying that. Now it feels like I can bike commute with him and not have it be torture. Although in the shade today, he decided it was too cold, in the sun it was too warm, but I'm just kind of like, I used to be an all-weather commuter, so now it feels good to be able to count on it every day again.
Yeah, that's good. Kids are, yeah. I remember my kid, when I bike commuted, would always ask for the air conditioning on the bike. So I feel you on that. Thanks, Eleanor. Jed, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I really enjoy swimming. Sorry, Jed, he, him pronouns. Swimming in natural bodies of water. Something I really enjoy in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Good we've got them around. Thanks, Jed. Melanie.
Hi there. I'm a resident of Brentwood, Darlington, and one of my favorite things to do in Portland in the summer is that Cinema Unbound, watching outside.
Awesome. Thanks, Melanie. Mike, can you go next?
Michael Kennedy, he, him, Mount Scott Arleta or Arleta, I'm never sure which. And my favorite summertime Portland activity is Comedy in the Park over there in Laurelhurst Park, and the Portland Pride events.
Awesome. Thanks. I haven't heard of Comedy in the Park. That's a good one. Nick, can you go next?
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Sobey, he, him pronouns, and I work for Rose Community Development and live in Woodstock. And my favorite activity is walking around in different Portland neighborhoods and parks.
Good one. Yeah, thanks, Nick. Pam, can you go next?
Hello, everyone. Pam Hodge, Brentwood Darlington Neighborhood Association, she, her pronouns. And really just anything outdoors, although I think this year I found a new favorite activity. The other night we went to Leach Botanical Gardens for their summer solstice celebration, which was a perfect night for it. And I'm going to learn how to row finally next month. So I'll be out on the water too, and I'll try and stop falling on sidewalks and breaking my nose. For those of you who didn't hear, I tripped on the 52nd Avenue walk, and that's why I look a little bit odd tonight.
Yeah, well, those are some good goals in the summer. And again, we're yeah, sorry that happened on the walk. And yeah, we'll have some time to reflect on that later, not just on falling, but on other observations we had during those walks. But
I just thought I should explain my appearance.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you're healing as well.
Yeah,
So,
I am.
Yeah, thanks, man. Right, and then Tim, can you go next?
Hi, I'm Tim, he, him pronouns. I live in Mount Scott Arleta with my very young kids, but my favorite summer activity, unlike taking my kids to the park, is getting into golf so I can get away from the kids. Try to get back into playing a little bit more.
Nice. Good summer activity. And then Valeria, can you go next?
Yeah, hi everyone, Valeria McWilliams, she, her, resident in the Lens neighborhood, and I'm also part of the Planning and Sustainability Commission. I echo a lot of the activities that people have shared. I'll share a new one. which is attending a pickles game. I just went to my first one last Tuesday, and it's 2 blocks away from my house, and it was lots of fun. So I'm looking forward to a lot more games there.
That's a good summer activity and one I have not yet done. So thanks to everyone for sharing. It's some cool activities and ideas to get out and enjoy the summer. Marty, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so, and I'll just share that my favorite Portland summer activity is actually to walk the Sunday Parkways routes on a non-Sunday Parkways day. Just kind of, you know, do a nice, and actually we did that on Father's Day. We walked the Southeast Sunday Parkways walk from 50th down to 16th and on the Greenways on Lincoln and on Salmon. So that was a beautiful walk. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here, and I'm going to do the PowerPoint like I think Erin advised here. Okay. And I don't think we have any members of the general public. Is that correct?
Yep, I don't think so.
Okay, so we can just move ahead there. Okay. So we wanted to just transition to just talking about the online open house, the survey, and just kind of a general engagement update. And so, as you know, Pam alluded to just now, we had, you know, what we feel were two pretty successful neighborhood walks, one on 52nd and one on 72nd. We had, you know, a pretty nice turnout for those. I think, you know, around kind of 20 to 30 people per walk. And so that was just a nice turnout. And we had folks of all ages and all modes of transportation joining us on the walks as well. And we also had some furry friends. So that was nice. Let's see, we held a bike ride with Bike Loud, and we have another planned for later this summer. We tabled at the Errol Heights Park project meet and greet, and that was thanks to Pam for letting us know about that event and that we were able to just piggyback with some of our bureau partners at that event. And then last Friday, Scott and I tabled at the Mount Scott Community Center just to, you know, kind of connect with folks as they were going to their morning swims and other workout activities at the community center. And then on this coming Saturday, we have a team of Kareem and Kevin will be at the Lentz International Farmers Market. And then we'll be attending the, I guess it's the summer concert event, the summer free for all event in July. Additionally, we have, I think I heard we're at 484 survey responses to the online survey. And so that's where we're at right now. And just a reminder that that closes next week. Sorry, my throat. So before we get into the 52nd and 77th Avenue walks, I just wanted to highlight kind of a few. So we had staff that are taking notes of just the walks and reflections people were sharing on the walks. And so just to share kind of a few highlights along the 52nd Avenue walk, definitely feedback about a desire to fill in the sidewalk gaps. So we definitely heard that. Also, just a desire to kind of continue kind of the individual said kind of the quirky character of 52nd Avenue. Love that comment. And there was right there at Duke and 52nd, there's a large, I think it's a Doug fir tree that is in the public right of way, and folks were, that's a beloved tree that folks were just reflecting on and wanting to preserve. Lots of feedback on just appreciative of some of the new crossings, desiring more crossings, you know, concerned about some sight lines when you're trying to get onto 52nd, that I think it was 52nd and Ogden it's hard to turn out onto the street. And desire for more businesses, more things to walk to. And also very much an appreciation of just the lawn in front of the Moose Lodge and how it kind of acts as a de facto public plaza. On 72nd, and actually also on 52nd, this was a common or a comment that was mirrored on both 52nd and 72nd. And there was a desire to have a welcome to the Brentwood Darlington neighborhood signage. So really kind of signage that, we're welcoming community members in and kind of acting as a gateway into these two streets. And I thought that was interesting. Different people, different streets, same comment. Also along 72nd, desire for more pedestrian crossings, especially the one, I think it was at Lexington, where there's the bus stop. And we actually saw a community member walking across the intersection diagonally to get to the bus stop. And also a crossing at Harney and 72nd was desired, across from the Little League Park. Also a desire to have just more small businesses, commercial to walk to, lots of desire to see some existing commercial buildings that are currently vacant to either be the sites to be redeveloped or for those businesses to be inhabited by, to be filled by businesses. And I'm going to stop right there and just see, I know that we had a few staff, obviously, and then project advisory committee members that attended the walks. And so I just wanted to see if there were any reflections or thoughts that you also wanted to share. And if there's no additional comments, we can move on to, I think, the survey results. Anyone want to jump in? Okay, I'm seeing some shaking of heads, so I'm gonna honor that. Okay. Hold on a second. I wanted to see all your faces, so I'm gonna minimize that now. Okay.
I'll jump in here. I think that number is wrong. As of Tuesday, it should say it's like 476 responses. So we've been getting a consistent sort of trickle of responses from folks really throughout ever since we advertised the survey, and just really appreciative too of everyone that's taken the time. There's a lot of questions we ask, and it's not a fluffy. We kind of had a few early surveys where we're just really asking some simple questions, but this asked some pretty robust questions and provided a lot of time for comments. So I think most people are spending about 15 minutes with the survey, but we've had up to like 50 minutes of people really reflecting, and so appreciate the response for that. Yeah, Mike, I don't know, do you have something to say? Just clarification real fast. I say raise your hand.
No, I had a question, but if you want me to wait, I'll wait.
No, go ahead.
I see here most of the respondents were white, 95%. Did that track with the in-person engagement as well?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. We did. So I guess first we're excited. I think the sort of neighborhood distribution is what we wanted to see in terms of respondents from Brentwood Darlington being the primary folks responding, and then sort of we'd probably want more respondents from Lents. That's why we're targeting the farmers market this weekend. But we've had pretty good representation from the Mount Scott and Woodstock. But we did want to sort of highlight that 90% of respondents are homeowners, and then 95% are white. So that doesn't track with the demographics in the area. And so we have done some sort of external outreach, both in terms of sort of some interviews we did last summer, getting really just doing some on the ground engagement that was more expansive. And I don't think in the work we did with there, we tracked demographics per se, but we went to some different we went to the mobile home parks in the area and some affordable housing developments in the area to get some interviews there. And then we're also using the Latino network, which we'll hear Marcelo will share about to get a better understanding of sort of Spanish speaking residents and their thoughts. But it is something we wanted to sort of highlight and daylight to say that this is always an issue in our surveys. And in a few slides, we can maybe broaden the conversation, and would love your all's thoughts and input about how we could better target other populations in the area. I know we only have a week left, but I think we'd be open to getting that sort of feedback as necessary, even beyond the deadline of the survey. So yeah, thanks Mike for highlighting that, and I'll share a few more highlights, and then we can have a broad conversation. You want to go to the next slide, Marty? So this just kind of highlights, and I should just want to flag that, again, this is preliminary survey data because the survey is still open. So these could all shift in the next week. We haven't seen a huge influx of surveys sort of in the recent days, but don't want everyone to take this as set in stone right now. But we have had a lot of support for just really more commercial activities, wanting more places to, like Marty said, to walk to, more businesses that serve the neighborhood. And then sort of shortly behind that is adding more affordable housing. So those were the really two key things that people in the survey responded to. Also the different types of housing was something, but home-based businesses was, of these four that we asked about, was the lowest. So not as much interest for that. Next slide. This shows, we asked on the right, what scenario do you feel is most appropriate for the lower Southeast rising project area? And we were pretty surprised by the responses we got to this, that in large part scenario 4 was the sort of highest scenario. So that's the one that if you remember, that has the most sort of development potential in terms of corridors along 72nd, 52nd, Flavel, and centers as well. And folks were able to choose more than one for this. So that's why it doesn't all equal out to 100%, but you can see that almost 70% wanted saw scenario 4 as appropriate, 30% scenario 3, and then a lot lower on the sort of basic level, or keeping things kind of the same in scenario 1. So, and on the flip side, we asked which would negatively impact or burden the neighborhood, and this essentially was flipped, where scenario 1 was the highest vote getter for that. So, if you want to go to the next slide. In terms of what we asked then what we should prioritize in terms of for transportation improvements in the plan. And you can see here pedestrian improvements was the top, so the highest vote getter. And then following that really closely was bike improvements or scooter improvements, transit, and street improvements. So those were sort of somewhat mostly closely tied. And then bus stops and lighting were in that sort of next tier of improvements. So that's what we've heard so far. Next slide. And then this, we asked really about those, if you remember, the busier streets. So things like Woodstock, Flavel, Duke Street, and Woodstock 52nd and 72nd were the ones that came up as the most important streets to improve. Which is nice. It tracks pretty closely with the improvements we're talking about in our development scenarios for 52nd and 72nd. So we like to see that. On the right, the graph shows what we should focus on those busier streets. And you can see again that pedestrian crossings, intersection safeties were top. And really a lot of these were pretty close together, but speeding, separating bike lanes, lighting, street condition, those were all sort of pretty high up there. And you can see the parking or maintaining vehicle parking on those streets was fairly low. So it's always low for the people that don't have to park their car if they don't live there. So we could keep that in mind, but that is something to keep in mind. And high-end vehicle speeding is just essentially cars going very fast. So in a 25-mile post-hour speed limit, typically we say 10 miles over that the posted speed limit. That's what we're thinking about there. And we also asked about a sort of trade-off question about whether folks would want more neighborhood greenways. So that's essentially having wayfinding and traffic calming on local streets for people to bike through. And there was some level of more support for doing that and building out that sort of network than enhancing and improving the bike lanes on these busier streets. So that's what one of the things we've heard so far in one of those trade-off questions. And then you want to go to the next slide? And then we shared this proposal for an updated transit network. And in the majority of folks have supported moving bus service from Duke Street to provide that continuous service on Woodstock between 52nd and 72nd. So that was one of the trade-off questions we asked about, is what impacts that would have if we move service up to Woodstock and then eliminate it on Duke Street. There was a few folks that actually asked if we could do a split service, so having service run on Woodstock part, sort of maybe once an hour, and then Duke on sort of the half hour. So that's we're going to continue, obviously, after the survey closes, reviewing all the comments, and we'll have another conversation with TriMet about what different options there are there. But did hear for support for that, and interestingly, we heard with that sort of support for changing service from Duke to Woodstock, we also still heard the more support for increasing service on existing lines rather than revising or adding new routes. So those are things we'll have to kind of balance when we once the survey closes and we start analyzing all the data. And so that's just a really quick high-level overview of what we're hearing so far. Wanted to flag that the survey does close next Thursday, so we've got a week left. We'll be doing one sort of more social media push to get responses for those that are procrastinators or forgotten, just to get the word out one more time. And then we'll start reading all the responses, doing a more detailed analysis of every comment that was shared, trying to group those together. And then we'll provide a summary of what we heard in early fall, so that, and probably by our next meeting, we'll have a better understanding too of those sort of comments that we heard and how we're incorporating those. But are there any other questions about any of that data or reactions that you have when you just seeing it for the first time? Yeah, Mike?
I do have some pause over just the racial demographic and the socioeconomic demographic that's responded, given that you only have this for a week. Is it worth keeping it open longer so that we can try to broaden the response base to be more representative of the neighborhoods?
I think we'd be, Marty, you can jump in here too. I think we'd be open to keeping the survey, like extending the deadline of the survey, if we had a clear path to getting respondents from those demographics. It's been, we've honestly it's been challenging to get responses from those groups.
Yeah, just on that note, So Kareem is going to be talking a bit, and Marcella, about the Latino network engagement. So there's an opportunity to get survey responses from the participants in that engagement. So that's something that is forthcoming. We did have an email conversation with Rose CDC about how do we coordinate connecting the survey to the Rose CDC communities. And we got some feedback that it wouldn't be helpful so much for them to share it via email or through their social media, but there's a desire to have, folks come to the communities and kind of do some tabling. So that's something that we are considering, but honestly, right now it's a little bit of a staff capacity issue. So it's a desire, and it's also a limitation that we're navigating. So I think we'd like to continue that conversation and get your thoughts on it tonight, and then also through, if there's additional thoughts you have on that. Some pros are that we could do some targeted, very limited, like we'd have to be very strategic about any additional outreach we do at this point, just because of staff capacity. So I guess my point is if we're gonna extend the survey, we probably have the ability of doing outreach to like one community, one day. So that's kind of the staffing limitations we have. So.
Yeah, and I saw your hands up too.
Oh, and really quickly,
oh, yeah.
The social media push that we're going to be doing, it's because we do have the translated online open houses. And so there's a translated social media push that we're doing specifically there. So, Anna?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering about the outreach techniques and how to do so, because I mean, we are all organizations suffering from this in all neighborhoods. And I'm just wondering if there's a possibility to reach out to particular organizations and particular entities who would then kind of have this moment of say like, hey, do that right here. I always think like, when you go to Mercado on Foster and 72nd and everybody is waiting for food, why not use that time to answer those questions? And I mean, I don't know. I was hoping you would have an idea of how it works better.
Yeah, I mean, and those are, that's definitely a suggestion. It's just, again, having staff that have the capacity to do that. That's really a challenge for us right now.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I mean, we somehow, I mean, the whole of Portland just needs to figure out how that works better.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think we did, honestly, kind of have to make a choice earlier this spring of like, are we going to do full on public engagement and do an open house in person and really sort of lean into those in-person events, and we just because of the uncertainty of where we were at with COVID, we had to sort of go the online route, put a lot of our resources into translation of the materials. And it's been hard for us to find sort of that person that can connect with the Vietnamese community or the Chinese community and be the advocate to get those survey responses in a way that just is sort of respectful of all parties and their time, and that making sure that it's people that live in the community. And so, yeah, it's been a challenge. And again, we're totally open to other ideas. I think Scott, I think y'all know Scott Goodman, who was our CSA last summer, went out and did it. I think we shared that he did a number of interviews just with folks on the ground, got a lot of sort of feedback about issues and needs from community members that way. that's probably been the best way that we've sort of got that sort of extracurricular outside of the sort of online open house engagement for the project. But yeah, certainly totally understand the lack and desire that we sort of fill this out more. Yeah, Valeria.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. I feel like if you've spent the resources for translation of materials and all of that, and we don't get the numbers, or at least the representation that we want to get by the deadline, I really do think that how, like, what kind of voices are we really elevating that are informing this project versus like if there are there timeline constraints that could allow us to potentially, I don't know, I don't know how community-based organizations are, if they're really stranded, but like a panel which is close to the project area, or I don't know. I feel like weighing both of the options that we have right now. And I understand, like, I don't know if staff capacity constraints are related to more like tabling and doing that work, or if it also includes like constraints on connecting and trying to push a little more the outreach through organizations.
So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to table this conversation until we get through the Latino network engagement update. Because I think that's important to reflect on, is that in order for us to form a partnership with a community-based organization, that took us a year to do that. And so I'd love to just have to give the committee an update on that, and then we can let's circle back to this conversation.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, and Marty, can you just clarify why it took so long? There's a question in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, part of it was, connecting with the organization, connecting with the right person on the organization, co-creating a scope of work that took a number of months and a lot of thinking and a lot of thought. And then the whole contracting, because to do a partnership, we wanted to make sure we were reimbursing the organization, and to get through a contracting took a number of months as well. So like from connecting with an organization to getting a contract signed, that was 9 months. So
it can take less time.
It
That was
can.
also when we were kicking off the project, so there was a lot of, but there's just always, it's going to take some time, and that's if we want to meaningfully invest in the organization or partnership. And so, not just asking Apano to go do work on our behalf, but setting up a contract where we can compensate them for their work appropriately. So we're trying to streamline that process. I know, at least in PBOT and other city bureaus, but there's always that time factor, and we're now up against, just to clarify, that we do have a deadline for this grant that's funded through ODOT that goes up now until April. We got an extension, but so April of next year, we need to have essentially a completed and final draft plan. So we want to do what we can to sort of expand and enhance the voices that we're hearing from, but in a way that to make sure we can close out the project in the timeline that we've been given.
it's a challenge. Yeah. Okay, so I think.
Well, I think that leads in perfectly to what we wanted to share tonight, and very timely and also overdue. We've been doing this work throughout the course of the project since all of you have been involved, but we haven't presented what we've been up to, quite as much. So again, I'm Kareem Mcqueen. I'm at PBOT and I'm supporting public involvement on this project. And I have had the pleasure of working with Marcela Tupayaki, who is here tonight. She joined while we were in this earlier part of the presentation. And really, I'll just share, adding on to what Marty said, we reached out to Marcela and Latino Network through the schools. We were recruiting for this committee and trying to build some of those connections. And Marcela is someone who is in the community doing work, who responded very enthusiastically, willing to work with us. And we were able to come to an agreement on how we could compensate them and in a way that benefits Latino Network and the project. And it's been, we've done a lot of hard work, and it's been a really deep and meaningful engagement beyond what we as staff can do. So I really appreciate all of Marcela's work, and I'm excited to introduce her to you. I think we started a tad late, but we're going to try to move through our information quickly to keep us on schedule. But I first want to introduce Marcela and let her introduce herself and just tell us about her work at Latino Network. And then I'll share on the next slide. So Marcela, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Marcela Tupayachi. I know my last name is kind of like Asian, but actually I'm Peruvian. My position is the family engagement specialist. That means that I work with parents in different schools, especially in the area, the Southeast is the schools of Kellogg, Lane, Franklin High School. So what Latino Network basically does, our vision, our mission is to positively transform the lives of Latino young families and communities. Also, I can talk about a little bit more of my position as a FES. We call it FES as Family Engagement Specialist. It's basically to empower the parents with tools and resources needed to advocate for themselves and their children, facilitate case management, client assistance, navigation of referrals to social services. And we also have Colegio de Padres. It's kind of like a workshop for parents that we have 2 times a month with them. We talk different topics related to the children for them to just learn a little bit more.
Thank you. That's perfect introduction. And if we could go to the next slide. Again, we had to kind of establish this partnership together, and with that we set forth these goals. First, to increase awareness of the project and among Spanish-speaking members of the community who identify as Hispanic or Latinx. And we also wanted to provide 2 opportunities for engagement in these key phases of the project. So earlier on, the existing conditions, the issues and needs, kind of what we did early on in the project to get understanding. And then now in this current online open house period, where we're weighing different options for improvements. So those are the 2 key phases of the project where we wanted to engage with the Colegio de Padres. So I will now pass over to Marcela to explain what we have done and what she has done and what we've heard.
So yeah, what we did with Latino Network, or well, myself, what I did with the families in this community, it was mainly to have, first of all, to have a meeting with them in Colegio de Padres and talk about the issues and the needs of this area from the members of the community. I think the next slide, because I can keep seeing the other way. there you go. So yeah, so to hear them, whatever they need, whatever they feel is needed in the area, like what it was like affecting their living in this neighborhood. Also we have like in small interviews one-on-one. Well, I was doing the interviews by phone because I couldn't do it in person because I needed to kind of go with the schedule and also my schedule because I do other things besides this project. So it was kind of difficult that, but finally we did it. I did the 6 participants. We have Mari with Corny, Umbria provide me with some questions, especially for them to ask them, and then I send the notes to them. And finally, now we're in the second part of the project. Is like we already have our second Colegio de Padres, where we talk about all the options. These 4 options that the city is providing them for the changes in this area. I talk about all this in detail to the parents. And also I mentioned about the survey and also how to navigate the website so they can also see all the information through the website. If they didn't understand me, they can like go to the website and read through the whole thing. And also, like, as I mentioned, I talk about the surveys with them. I told them that it was possible for them to take them to do the website, to do the surveys on their own and try them because there was a lot of questions. But at the same time, we're going to have a second round of interviews. And in that second round of interviews, my plan is to go through the whole survey with them so they can answer the questions and also like add some comments, maybe something that they didn't think it was a really good question maybe in the survey, or just related to the whole project, or also the options that were provided. So yeah. Well, so after here in the first part, what we hear, in everything that's going well according to my participants who lives in the area, we're saying the community and the neighborhood, it's good. It's not a really bad neighborhood. The public transportations for access to schools is really well. At least I have 2 participants that mentioned that they were like really fascinated with the transportation because it goes through different schools from like elementary school to high school. And also there was another type of transportation that was like from close to their house going all the way to downtown Portland where they work. And also there were like many shopping options nearly to their house, and also restaurants that they feel comfortable about it. Some challenges that they saw in this community, first of all, and sadly I think it's everywhere here in the US, is the homeless and the camping. Also harassment. I have like 3 participants that have experienced no situations that were really delicate for them, and we share with them too. Also a lot of trash and abandoned cars in the streets, which it was like, it's something that a lot of my participants, I would say almost everyone mentioned it, there was a big issue in this area because they saw a lot of cars in the street that didn't allow to, for example, the bus stop going through the house and the stop right so the students can take the bus. And also they tried to talk, like the bus driver tried to talk with the people that is in charge of these cars, but nothing happened. So also I think the city knows about it, but they told him, yeah, that we're gonna take those cars, but they're still there. Also, there were like the construction packs. There was like some areas that there were like some constructions, but didn't like, I guess for the raining, I will say that, I don't know, but nothing was happening. There was a lot of signs of construction and there was a lot of like change routes for the bus and nothing was happening. It's also that my participants share that. There is other thing that shared them and I quite don't remember right now because there was a lot of comments really, but yeah. Some areas that they were really concerned of where my participants live, it was like where is the potholes and the poor road conditions at the rural copper and lumber streets. And also they were complaining about the speeding and lack of safe crossing about the 92nd and rural. Poor stopping complaints in the interstate of the 88 and Ellis. And the pedestrian safety near the White Lilac Child Development Preschool. I have one participant that had like the children in this preschool, and every single time they have to walk all the way to Catalog, cross the street and the stop line, and be able to go back to White Lilac Child Development Preschool, because even though they have this stop so pedestrians can go through, drivers are not stopping in the area. What is happening is like they're going really fast, and also it says like 25 instead of going 25, they're going 35 or 45 sometimes. So also something that my participants wants to see in this area is more parks and green spaces. They love going to the park. I guess, I don't know if it's like something that they like to do in familia, but like it's something that they really enjoy. And every time when we do like events with the Latino network, with the Colegio de Padres, it's something that they love. That's why they were sharing a lot, like, oh, we need more parks, more green areas, also more community centers and health clinics. I know in the area there's a few clinics, but my participants didn't know about it. They haven't heard, or they don't know the information. So it will be better if we can share more of this information to the community. The community centers, I know there is like believe it's Asian community that is like mainly in that area, but they were also mentioning, oh, something for the Latinx community will be great if it's something here, if there's something here for us. Also, they want more bike lanes, having and improving road conditions. They saw a lot of streets that they don't have paving, and they're living like their houses is right there, and the streets like all ground. I don't know how to say it, but like, yeah. And also the increase in the lighting. It was something that we're mentioning. I have like a couple of them mentioning that they were walking on the street, and especially on winter time, we know that it's getting dark so fast, and they try to walk from the bus stop to their houses, and there is not enough lighting for them to walk and feel safe, especially now that, as I mentioned before, we have like a big problem with the homeless here in Portland.
Great, and then the next slide, thank you. Sorry, I could hear, but my Zoom froze for a minute. So hopefully you can hear me just fine now, and my face is moving again. Thank you, Marcela. That was a really great overview. And there will be more because Marcela is still completing this round and getting feedback on this online open house. So that's just what we've heard to date. But I just wanted to share the next steps. We have connected the Colegio de Padres with our Safe Routes to School program at PBOT as like kind of the next step connection to the city to continue, partnering together and hearing the needs and desires of this group. So I think that's and we're definitely open to other making other connections, but we definitely see that as a group at the city that could help advance some of the goals of the Colegio de Padres and bring their feedback back to the city on a regular basis beyond this project. So that's our next step, and we've already brought one of our Safe Route staff to a meeting. So we'll just continue. Yeah, I think our project is ending at the end of this month together. Our work is ending, but we hope this will be a lasting partnership in other ways. And we hope to be a resource now that we've built this connection. And anything else, Marcela, before we end our portion?
I don't know, just like saying thank you for inviting me here and share a little bit more about what we did with my group of parents. They're really excited. They were really excited to be part of this. I know Courtney has experienced that in our last Colegio de Padres, where like everyone would say, yeah, thank you for coming and ask these questions because it's really important for them to share something. And sometimes they feel that they cannot share as they want to. And in this time, it was perfect because they had the opportunity to share as a group and also as an individual with me. And well, yeah, I'm just waiting to finish with these small interviews and complete the surveys with them so I can share a little bit more with Marty, Brian, or Courtney. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. It's lovely to see you again. Okay. Well, I wanted to pause for a second. We have about 25 minutes left in our meeting, and we wanted to spend some time on kind of some midpoint reflections, and then have time at the very end to just kind of do kind of a next steps or kind of what's in store for the summer. But I promised that we would kind of revisit kind of the conversation about the online open house and survey after we heard from Marcella with Latino Network, and just see if anybody wants to have any questions or any additional comments on kind of what we had talked about previously in the meeting. Mike, yeah.
Is the work that Marcella did, was that included in the statistics that you read earlier?
It's not. And that's pretty typical because, oftentimes we're doing parallel engagement tracks because the engagement that we design for the mainstream is not necessarily a culturally appropriate. And so we have to design engagement that, or co-design engagement that is going to work with the community. And so that's an example of what we were able to do with Latino Network. And so again, it's parallel engagement, parallel feedback streams.
And also, Kareem, I think they will be submitting the survey responses into the survey, right? Before it, and then
Yeah, that's the plan. Yes.
Yeah. So some of the survey responses, some of this like sort of the extra comments might not all make it in there, but they also took the survey, so they'll be included.
And when we do like a what we heard report for like a phase, we incorporate the different engagement or parallel tracks of engagement.
I just wanted to note Marcella has to take off pretty soon, and so I just wanted to say thank you, and feel free. I know you have other commitments, so appreciate your time.
Thank you. You don't have any questions for me, right?
No, yeah.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marcella. Yeah, Marty, maybe also we could just continue the conversation. I think it leads into one of these points that you make in terms of the mid-project reflections of sort of maybe what needs greater emphasis in the final stages of the project. So that could also, we could also continue that conversation with these reflections. But I see Aaron has a hand up.
Thanks. I think it's just the looping back and for that question of what's the plan to mitigate the fact that the feedback isn't representative of the community. So if we know that reality, we know that we have difficulty. How do we ensure that we don't look at that feedback as if it were representative?
With just adding to that question, do we think that there will be an opportunity in the future to have that engagement, since it doesn't seem realistic to, just from what Marcella shared, yes, it takes a lot of time and to do focus groups like that and have one-on-ones, and that is thoughtful engagement, and it's building trust and it's building relationships in the community. So I'm wondering, how can we honor having that process in the future if it's not possible to do that in this timeline?
Yeah. Go ahead. Anna?
Are we just jumping in, or I don't know how this.
Yeah, I don't know. Marty, do you have a
Yeah.
response?
Yeah, well, and I feel like there's more discussion to be had here. And so let's continue that. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, and I think I'll just say, you know, like, point taken, and we would love to expand and extend our outreach. And so I think if any of you all have ideas of groups or connections that you want to let us know about, that would be awesome. But I know it's not sort of your role and purview either to do that, and so we can also do some work internally to assess what we can do in the time frame we have. And you know, I think we do want to have those conversations and build trust, and yeah, and make sure that what we're proposing is representative and the desire of all community residents. So we can come back at the next meeting and have some thoughts and recommendations as well.
And Nick?
Oh, yeah, one thing I wanted to say is, you know, I'll work with our staff at Rose and, you know, do what we can in terms of getting input from people. But in terms of my kind of midpoint reflection, I just feel like we're seeing the project area really experiencing a loss of diversity just around where I live. You know, you're seeing the inexpensive housing torn down and $800,000 houses go up in their place. And so, you know, I really think a major goal of this project should be how are we getting housing built for people that can't afford $800,000 houses, and, you know, so doing things like more multifamily zoning, and, you know, also other kinds of incentives to get different housing types and home ownership for people that haven't had the opportunity to be homeowners. You know, all those things I think are really important.
Thanks, Nick.
I just
Aaron,
want to
yeah.
jump back at it, and not to beat the dead horse one more time, but for me, it's not as much of an issue of a point being taken as much as it's like making decisions on how to present that data that's found. And like, I appreciate that when we received the data, you really highlighted and you were transparent about who was represented and who wasn't. But then using whatever, like maybe making a commitment to like, I don't know how you share data when you know that it's not representative, and make what commitments you make to like not make decisions that just because it's what a survey that we know isn't representative says. So like that for me feels more important than like something was, whatever was possible or wasn't possible. Like I appreciate that those limitations, but just making decisions of what to do next with that data feels important to me.
Anna?
Yeah, I mean, I try to process what happens in these in these moments when we try so hard to reach out and there's so much work being put in. And it seems to me, I mean, I'm not that long in Portland, but the 4 years I'm here, I always felt like there is a missing communication receptacle in Portlanders. And you know, even for me, it's very difficult to understand how to address that and not being, you know, kind of, I don't know what the feeling is I have towards these kind of outreach programs, because I'm very enthusiastic and I joined this whole system because I thought, wow, this is a system where I can actually make a change as someone who is not allowed to vote, who is an immigrant, who has to learn how the society functions. And then I was in those meetings and I thought like, wow, what's going on? Why are you just concerned with yourself and just perpetuating what you have been doing? And I think, just recognizing where we are with this outreach and where we put a lot of emphasis and really great thoughts. And, but to also say like, well, maybe there needs to be a change how outreach is been done. And that's not only for BPS and PBOT, that's for, the larger Portland engagement question. But I think what, aside from those questions, these kind of cultural appropriate ways of engaging, what I found interesting in the discussions that I had when I presented this, or our land use chair in the Woodstock area presented this to the community, there was a lot of hope that triggered people to participate and to go to those surveys and to say like, hey, this is great. I actually can have, some say of what's important. And I saw a lot of people starting to think about what does it mean, aside just from one singular change, to think in more complex and systematic ways of what does it mean to have a business center coming in, or to change the transportation, or to change the school system, or to change, and or what does it mean to say like, oh, I rather have my gravel roads paved, or do I actually engage in an alternative way of thinking and go with more green spaces and have, dedicated ways for car transportation and dedicated ways for pedestrians, and try to find better greenways and walkability and community engagement through those ways. And that triggered in our group in Woodstock and beyond a lot of new ideas where people feel more comfortable stepping out of their traditional ways of perceiving the city.
Thank you. Tim?
I'm sorry if this has been covered. I had to hop down and say goodbye to my parents, but it seems like there's a lot of talk about the engagement in the survey not representing the area. And I don't have any experience on whether or not, or how often that actually happens in city surveys. Like, how often does the survey respondents represent the actual demographics of the neighborhood? Because I would imagine that it rarely does.
It rarely does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is again why we do parallel engagement efforts that are, not designed for someone to go to a website and to spend 15 to 50 minutes on a survey. And just to kind of remind folks, we've done some pretty robust engagement for the entire project. Last summer we did canvassing of the manufactured homes. We had 18 stakeholder interviews where we were going to specific communities and specific organizations and specific faith groups. And so you can't look at the survey as like the thing. You have to look at all of the engagement that we've done. And yes, survey, there's a certain type of person that will take the time to fill out a survey. And that's why we have to do more creative parallel engagement efforts. And our hope with the Latino Network partnership is that we'll get 6 to 10 people to fill out the survey. That is our hope. So the highlight of the engagement was more of creating the partnership with the organization, which Kareem has done an amazing job with, and kind of the capacity building of Marcella to engage and interpret, our project to the Colegio de Padres group, and that was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have done that type of parallel engagement with our projects. Okay. And I think as far as just kind of reflecting on kind of, I mean, we still have a ways to go with this project. And I think what I'm hearing is to continue to do that diverse parallel engagements that we've been doing. But I think it would be really good, and maybe this is follow-up conversations, follow-up emails, suggestions on what communities we should be prioritizing and focusing on. And we've already heard that we have a potential partnership with Nick in the Rose CDC communities moving forward. So we'll continue to explore those. Just doing a time check, it is 7:50, and we had intended to have this be a breakout conversation and get your feedback, but I really felt like the conversation that we were having was really important, and so I wanted that to just continue and just appreciate the feedback that we got tonight. And then what I would like to do with these questions is I would like to put them in an email to you all, and for you to send back your reflections to us via email, if that works for everyone. So, okay. I'm going to go on to so yes, we'll be sending this to you via email as well. Okay, so just kind of, typically we start out our committee meetings with kind of a reminder of kind of where we're at with just the overview and the timeline. And so where we're at is kind of this, again, this alternatives analysis phase. Sometimes we call it kind of a conceptual phase of a project. So it's, it's more bubble diagrams, more kind of big picture thinking. And that's the whole purpose of the online open house and the survey and all the parallel engagement we've been doing, is to just kind of talk in this macro big picture level. And we're going to be transitioning this summer to kind of focusing in-house on what we heard from the survey, what we heard from our partnership with the Latino Network, what we've heard on the walks. So we have, summary notes of the engagement we did on the walks and of all the tabling efforts that we've done. So that's all of that goes into kind of our synthesis of moving forward. And then I think that's kind of it for this slide. We will be transitioning to working on more of very, very early drafts of the plan in the fall. And, I guess I would say that there will be, again, parallel engagements with those efforts. And so again, feedback on kind of what communities we need to be prioritizing would be really helpful. Okay, so just next steps. We are going to not have a meeting in July, and that's been pretty typical, is that we've been kind of meeting on a every other month basis. And so we're going to continue that just so we can close out the survey and kind of do some in-house, again, synthesis of all the feedback that we've gotten. We still are going to be doing some tabling. So we'll be at the Lents International Farmers Market this weekend, because again, prioritizing that Lents is a geography that we haven't heard as much from. And then we'll be at the concert in the park in July. And the purpose of that is not to get feedback on the survey. It's more of just continuing to be out in the community. Same with the Pedalpalooza bike ride in August 1. And the August bike ride that is on the website. So we'll have some of the events that we're hosting on the website. And then our next committee meeting we're proposing is August 29th. And I just want to share kind of some thinking on that. We felt, number one, that waiting to meet until September was a little too late. And so we felt like August was, it felt like a more comfortable distance or time to check back in with the committee. I do want to note for those that are parents or have children, school-age children in the committee, that is, it's going to be the first day of school for Portland Public Schools. So I just want to elevate that. I know sometimes schools have staggered starts with kindergartners or with the grade that's transitioning into the school, but just noting that that is the first day of school. And then yeah, I think just getting back to the project kind of midpoint reflections, we do have some questions that we want to send out via email, and we'd love to get your feedback on that. And really it's to help us with the next, I would say like the next 9 months are going to be kind of the critical formation time of the project. And then after those 9 months, we kind of transition into the more legislative timeline of the project. And so definitely the 9 months, we want to make sure that we're engaging the community well, and we're progressing the project per the needs of our grant, and so we can continue to have a forward path and address the needs in this community. Anything else? We have 4 more minutes. Any questions? Any other comments? And I'm going to stop sharing so I can see all of you.
I just had a clarifying question. Once this plan, let's say, gets adopted, well, it's recommended by the PSC and it gets adopted by council, would the approval of council come with a specific budget allocated to implement? Okay.
No. Yeah, nope. The items, and Brian, you might want to jump in on this, but if there are transportation projects that are identified that are something that we would add to the transportation system plan, I believe that there are kind of cost estimates that are included. And then there's also timeline bands that are included. Is that correct?
Yeah, but they're not always funded, right? So
right.
Yeah, so I think the real I think the key kind of outcomes from this plan is that if we change the zoning in the project area, that could help facilitate some development and growth from the commercial side, and also open up some potential new opportunities for housing or affordable housing, different types. And then on the transportation side, it will help us prioritize and then advocate for investments on certain routes. So whether, that's why it's helpful to know if there's a strong desire to do neighborhood greenways, our bike investments, the most important, our crossings, and we'll start to develop a prioritized list of projects based on the feedback we've heard, and other engagement to then sort of start narrowing down those recommendations. And then, once it comes to a point where we have maybe 10 projects, and that's, adding crossings on Woodstock, adding bike lanes on 50, whatever the projects end up being, that are really endorsed by the community, endorsed in the plan, that helps us to then advocate and and sort of, request funding from different sources that we have at PBOT, or go after different grant opportunities that come up. So it's not always great to not have any money, but it's the first step is having it in the plan, and then we can use that plan as leverage for different funding opportunities.
And when we say we, it's both the city and the community to use the plan as leverage. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, I think that it's 8 o'clock. I think that concludes our meeting. I will go ahead again and send an email out to you all with the midpoint project questions, and feel free to email us your responses or anything else that you would like to share. But yeah, we just wanted to allow for this kind of, again, middle of the project kind of evaluation or reflection opportunity for the committee. So
we really appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments tonight.
Yeah,
really great.
yeah, we do. Okay. Well,
thanks everyone.
Thanks so much for all your work.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night, everybody. Have fun on your vacation, Marty.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Good night,
Bye.
all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Oh. How do we stop recording?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.